Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Readem. My name is Emily, and today we're gonna get spooky. Welcome to my 2024 Summerween reading vlog. And if you don't know what Summerween is, don't worry, I'll explain it to you. Summerween is a readathon that happens every year, hosted by Gabby Reads. It's basically just a dedicated week of the summer where we have permission to read strictly spooky books. There are also generally 5 prompts every year, and based on those prompts you can kind of decide your TBR. So my goal for this year's Summerween is to read 3 books that fulfill all 5 prompts, and the prompts are up right here. I don't know what order they're in, but in general they are: read a horror thriller book, which is easy to do; read it in the dark, which is good for like audiobooks, Kindle, or just reading with a little light, make it extra spooky; read a book with 5 words in the title; read a book with the night sky on the cover; and read a book that takes place in the summer. So for my first prompt of the 5-word title, I was thinking of reading Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wabgashig Rice. I'm so sorry if that's mispronounced. This is a book I've heard great things about. It's an apocalyptic novel set in the snow, so naturally I think things get a little bit grim, and it's quite short, so I think this could be the perfect pick. For a book with the night sky on the cover, I was thinking of reading Slewfoot by Brom, because it just has that huge moon in the background, and I actually thought this was kind of a hard prompt to find something for. And lastly, I want to read The Last One by Will Dean for a book that takes place in the summer, because although I'm not positive it takes place in the summer, it does take place on a cruise. So I'm gonna hope and assume it takes place in summer, and if it doesn't, I'm hoping that the summer vibes are enough to count it towards this prompt. So without further ado, let's get straight into things and see what I read. So I woke up in a tent this morning, which I really feel like is the vibe to start out my Summerween. But the only thing that wasn't a vibe is the fact that I started filming my Josh Mallerman vlog before Summerween happens. You'll see that in a few weeks, so don't even worry. But I read this entire book, which was legitimately terrifying, and then slept outdoors in a tent in a storm, which was a decision. But you won't get to hear my full thoughts about this until that vlog comes out, so get ready. But it does mean that I got to check off the backyard glamping thing on my summer bucket list, so that's exciting. And now that I'm back in my house, I'm ready to start reading for Summerween, and I have my 3 books right here. I decided I'm gonna do the classic, read the first chapter of each one, decide which one I'm gonna read first. So, see you guys on the flip side. New angle just dropped in my basement. Don't think I've ever filmed down here, but currently downloading a new Switch game, and it's gonna take, you know, a solid hour, so I thought I should just update you guys and read at the same time. We're gonna multitask a bit. And in case anyone's curious about the game itself, I randomly heard about it right now and it was on sale for $7. It's called Immortals Phoenix Rising. It has something to do with Greek gods, and I was like, that kind of sounds fun. And someone compared it to Journey to the Savage Planet, which is a game I really like on my Switch. I really like kind of like exploratory open world games. I've also been playing Breath of the Wild. I've been playing Outer Wilds. I've been playing It Takes Two on Xbox.
And then they kiss. They're literally,
Oh my god.
about to kiss right now.
Are you about to kiss right now? I have little nightmares. Super Mario Odyssey I also recently got and need to play. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. I do really like video games though. I don't know if I've ever talked about that on the channel before. But anyway, if you have any recommendations, let me know. That being said, I do have an update about the 3 first chapters I read. So I started with Slewfoot. And if I had to rate this chapter out of 10, I would honestly probably give it a 5. Not that it was bad, it was just like completely middle of the road. It really reminds me of the movie The Witch so far, because it's also about a Puritan village that is probably gonna have a devil involved. It also has a goat in the first chapter named Samson, and that movie also has a goat, Black Phillip, who's very involved in things. And so I liked this, but I'm a little bit wary of it because I don't typically love Puritan occult stories. Like, I don't know, they don't always get me. Like, The Witch was a little lackluster to me, so I'm a little nervous about this, but the writing is pretty good and the like drawings and paintings in this are really cool. So I'm hoping the illustrations will also kind of help me along. And I've heard amazing things, but I did realize, now that I'm thinking about it, the people I've heard amazing things from are people who like witchy books, and that's not typically my thing, so I don't know. I'm a little hesitant about this one now, so maybe I'll save it for last. Then I went ahead and read the first chapter of Moon of the Crusted Snow. I would give this first chapter either a 6 or a 7. It was definitely like in the 3-star range. I really liked the writing and I'm intrigued what's to come, but the first chapter was very mundane, like not much happened. It was essentially the main character hunting a moose and then bringing it home to his family. But once he got home, the satellite TV in his house wasn't working. And so I'm assuming that's gonna kind of lead to some sort of post-apocalyptic situation. because that's what I think this book is about, but I'm honestly not sure because I never read synopses. But it was intriguing, and I liked the vibes a little bit better than Slewfoot so far. And then last but not least, of course, I also read the first chapter of The Last One by Will Dean, and we have some good news and some bad news. The first chapter was really intriguing because it is about a couple going on a cruise ship, and at the very end of the chapter, when the woman of the couple wakes up, everyone on the cruise ship is gone. So that naturally was the most like intriguing of all the chapters. The writing style is definitely way more commercial than the other two books and way more basic, but it might be just the right thing to like get into a readathon because it's super compulsively readable. But also the bad news here is that I did find out, because I ended up reading chapter 2 as well, that this actually takes place in November, which is not summer. And the whole point of picking this book was that it took place in the summer. But I'm making the executive decision that that prompt is about like summer vibes. Like it still takes place on a cruise ship and it still feels like a summer thriller. Just because it's November doesn't really matter because she's on a cruise ship. Like I feel like if you read a book that happened to take place in July but it didn't actually have anything to do with summer, why like does that fit the prompt too? Like I don't really know. I'm deciding that since it's my readathon experience, I can choose what I want. So I decided I'm gonna read this book for the readathon, even though it's technically taking place in November. But anyway, that being said, I think I'm going to continue with this book first and maybe intersperse with this one if I ever like get tired of reading this but want to continue reading because it's a readathon. I might continue with this one. I think Slewfoot I'm going to save for last because I feel like the motivation of it being the last book will like get me to finish it if I end up not loving it as much. But that's a lot of judgment I'm making based on the first chapter. Anyway, my game is going to continue downloading for like 40 minutes and I'm going to read a good chunk of this. See you soon. Pay no attention to everything behind me, but this is just the best lighting I could find at this moment. I have a bit of a pathetic update for you all, a bit of an admission I must give, and that is that it is currently the last day of Summerween, and I'm still reading this book. I'm gonna finish it tonight. And I did read another book actually during Summerween that was like a really short novella short story thing, which I'll tell you about in a second. But first I have to describe to you why it's taken me a week to read this book. I can give you the fun reasons first. I've done a lot of fun things. I went peach picking, as you saw in that epic montage. I went to a pool, which I didn't film anything at, but that was a really fun day. I've been in New York City a lot for my job. I had to go to this appointment to get a visa, which was a bit of a horrendous mess, but we did what we had to do. So I've just been very, very busy. But the other reason why it's taken me an entire week to read this thriller book is that it's just kind of bad. I'm torn because, okay, I'm at 75% right now. Actually, I think I'm at 80% right now. And it has just started to get a little bit better. And I'm gonna tell you what this is about without giving away any spoilers, so don't worry. I'm just disappointed and I am very much regretting picking it. And don't worry, I'm gonna extend the readathon, and I'm definitely gonna at least read this because this vlog cannot have one book and a novella in it. That's a bit pathetic. So I'm just gonna continue Summerween into this book as well, and I'm gonna try to read it really fast. But that being said, I started this book and I thought it was gonna be really fast-paced and thrilling. And here's the thing. It's trying so hard to be fast-paced because the chapters just end completely arbitrarily in the middle of a scene for no reason. Like it's just, the chapter breaks are just there so that you can say you got to another chapter. And that's really getting on my nerves. The writing is really bad, which I'm not even someone who typically cares about prose and all that. Like obviously I can appreciate it, but I'm not like a stuck-up reader. I'm not really reading for like the art of literature always. I'm often here for just a fun, silly ride. But this is just like so noticeably flat that it's distracting. And the amount of tell and not show that's happening, especially with character backstory, is really a bit painful. And I can, understand arguments that it's like the point of the style of this book because of the nature of what it's about, which I won't tell you because it's technically not in the synopsis. It's supposed to be a bit trashy. If you've read it, you know what I mean. But it's just not compelling. And for the first half, even 3/4 of the book, it was just a lackluster thriller. And I read a lot of horror, so in order for something to be thrilling to me, I need to be like genuinely scared and worried. And if I don't care about the characters, I'm obviously not gonna be worried. And if the things aren't inherently actually terrifying, I'm not gonna be worried. And so now that I've got to the 3/4 point, things are becoming a bit actually terrifying. It's starting to veer a little bit into the horror domain, and I've actually started to enjoy myself a little bit. And I think the ending could convince me to give this a 3, but I was really sitting at a 2 for like the majority of this entire time, which is so disappointing because I've heard so many people I trust and love really like this. But I think what I'm discovering is the type of thriller that this is a type of thriller that those people enjoy that I just historically haven't. For example, like, I think it's kind of somewhat comparable to something like The Guest List, maybe? Where obviously that's a murder mystery, which this is not. But just having like a big cast of characters that are kind of surface level and stupid is the vibes. And I can't get on that vibe. So that's my little like mini rant about the last one by Will Dean. I'm gonna finish it though tonight, and I'll give you a final update to tell you if my mind has been changed at all. In the meantime though, before I finish that, let me talk about something I actually really liked. Over this week, I've also watched 2 seasons of television. One of them was rewatching the TV show Severance, which is one of my favorite TV shows, although it's only 1 season right now, and I was rewatching it with a friend who's never seen it. So that was very exciting, and it was just announced actually yesterday that the new season's coming out in January. So that is very exciting. And watching that show is also part of why this was made worse to me, because they both have like somewhat similar premises of just a character being in an unfamiliar location that is mysterious and they don't know what's going on. But in Severance, it's very deep and very intriguing and has a lot of like interesting moral implications, which this is attempting to do and just miserably failing. Severance just is making me hate that book even more. But because I was loving the show so much, I discovered this YouTube video that was about something called the Lexington Letters. And it turns out that Apple Books, who makes the TV show as well, Apple TV does, has released this like short story novella thing called The Lexington Letter from Severance. And it's this like newspaper, multimedia, journalism email. That didn't make any sense. It's just like a multimedia thing of someone writing a letter to a journalist. It's from the perspective of a severed employee. And it's very interesting. I won't really give away the whole gimmick because that's the entire short story, but it has huge implications for the TV show, like huge, and no one knows about it. It's free on Apple Books to read this, and it provides so much information about what's happening in Severance that no one seems to be talking about. I mean, the show is just severely underrated as a whole, but like, I cannot even begin to describe the theories that have like compounded themselves in my brain because of that short story. And then it also, on top of that, has an entire like manual for the macrodata refinement section of Lumen. And that also has like weird little inklings and hints of things. It's just like, it was so fun. I can't believe they released that and like just didn't tell anyone. So anyway, I gave that a solid 4 stars because it really enhanced the show materials. And then I started deep diving into like the wiki articles. That's a whole separate thing. Anyway, I really enjoyed my time with the Severance universe this week, and it made me dislike this even more. Anyway, I'm gonna go finish this book. Wish me luck. I have my retainer in. It's that late in the evening, so you're gonna get like Lisp Emily right now. I finished the book. I really wanted to convince myself that it was a 3, but it's not. It's a 2.5. I'm gonna give it the 0.5 extra because I thought like the 75% area was pretty solid and fun. And I respect the ending. It's a bold choice, that last chapter, but I respect it. This book reminds me a lot of certain movies, but I can't really say what they are because then it kind of gives away. But if you like over the top, you might like this. I do like over the top, but I just thought the writing was bad. And I thought the beginning, like the first entire 50%, this book is also 480 pages, or maybe 450, but like, it's long for a thriller, and it just doesn't need to be that long. The first half was so dull, and then the second half picked up, and then just kind of fizzled out. Unfortunately, I did spend an entire week of a week-long readathon reading 1 book, plus the Severance novella, which I enjoyed this. Didn't enjoy this. But I have decided, for the sake of my sanity and the fairness of yours, I will be reading Moon of the Crusted Snow in this vlog as well. Even though technically Summerween has come to a close. But I'm gonna try to read this in the next like 2 days and get this vlog out to you in a somewhat timely fashion. It's gonna be a belated Summerween vlog, but mine always is, so here's to that. I stayed up late watching the Copa Final, so just don't even worry about what this looks like. But the good news is, because it was delayed 80 minutes, I had 80 minutes to read and then finish Moon of the Crusted Snow. And I'm so happy to report that this was really good. I'm rating this 4 stars out of 5, but I want to say that I would really highly recommend it. It honestly weirdly kind of reminded me of a book you would read in school, but in a good way, like the ones that you actually liked. This is something very simple, but the ideas and concept it presents are very interesting. And I feel like if you were taught this in tandem with some sort of like historical background and cultural background, this would be enhanced even further. And I was just getting like little inklings of that from the acknowledgements alone. And I kind of wish I was being taught this by an actual teacher or professor, because the historical context would add a lot of layers. So to give a little quick pitch or description of this, this is technically an apocalyptic novel, but it's very quiet and slow burning. That is not to say that nothing exciting happens, because it does get a bit gruesome and exciting, but it's a very, very slow burn. And by slow, I don't necessarily mean the pacing, although that is true, but I also mean it's just a slow apocalypse. It's not like an asteroid comes and destroys everyone on the planet. It's kind of a more realistic look at what may happen in the future if resources begin to run out. And the reason that this is so unique is not just because it's a slow apocalypse, it's because of the perspective it's told from, which is a First Nations reservation in Canada. It is a Anishinaabe community. I obviously don't know that much about First Nations in Canada because I'm American, but I have learned a lot about Indigenous communities in the USA from my English literature classes and history classes in the US. And so this perspective from the Canadian side was something I'm slightly familiar with. It is also good to learn about that this history does not only apply to America. And it's especially interesting to learn about kind of like the different generations and how they connect with their culture. Because of how they were treated for connecting with their culture, different generations end up expressing it more or less. And in terms of the apocalypse itself, this perspective is really interesting to the novel because these people, at least the current generation, are somewhat familiar with living off of the land. And so certain people in the community are used to that and can thrive more when resources run out, while certain people don't know how to live off the land because that was taken away from them by settlers who thought that it was savage or not civilized to do such things. So that impact then has directly caused them to be able to survive or not in this slow apocalypse. And it's an interesting perspective to see how roles are reversed when these people are the only ones with the knowledge to survive versus the civilized white settlers. So because of that perspective and because of the slowness of the apocalypse, I felt like this was a really unique survival book and one that I'm definitely going to keep on my shelves and one that I would widely recommend. So with the final reading of this book, I can finally say that I'm marking the end of my personal Summerween, which clearly has extended a little bit farther than actual Summerween, but it's okay. The spirit of Summerween is to have fun, right? So I can do what I want. I would say it was relatively successful. You know, the only failure I had was I didn't read anything with a night sky on the cover, although I could argue technically that this, like, it doesn't show the sky, but it clearly takes place at night during this part. And, you know, if you're outside in the water at night, the sky would be above you. And this book technically has a sky on it. It's really snowy, so you can't really tell if it's night or not, but, like, it could be. Wait, I just realized something, guys. I think I just realized something that's gonna make me win all the prompts. The title of this says Moon. Yeah, I'm counting that. I'm counting that as a night sky thing. So anyway, because of that, I can obviously say I totally succeeded at Summerween and totally didn't cheat and totally did all of the prompts. And I managed to get 2 4-stars and a 2-star, which, you know, the 2-star was unfortunate and kind of the momentum that caused me to not read everything on time. But I was also really busy, so it's partially just my fault in general. But anyway, I had a really good time with Summerween. I want to know what you guys read for Summerween and what your favorites were, so please consider liking and commenting for engagement and subscribing. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!